Okay, back again. Making a pretty good progress the last couple of weeks. I'm very pleased. So this one is, I think, for me the scariest. This is starting to take on the sills and the inner arches, and a few little bits of damage, on the outside arch or on the outer arches. So I don't know why it's making me so nervous. I guess it's just because it involves cutting into like structural stuff, and like if it's a case that I get stuck and I'm not confident, I'll just call it quits and I'll send it off to somebody who will do it. Just that would mean it wouldn't get done anywhere near as fast, but hopefully it won't come to that. But so I'm starting on the passenger side with the car up on the ground and the whole back end, or that side of the back end, stripped out of it, and I'll show you what we're dealing with. So on the outside we've a hole there, but like realistically that'll probably just clean up, be fine. Another hole there, I'll be able to check the inside of that once I start cutting. You can see where there's some previous repairs there, right there and right there. Now the reason a lot of that rusts is because in all the older Hondas, CRXs, the older Preludes, Accords obviously, and EG Civics and stuff, they all have that black moulding along the bottom as opposed to just a curved sill or whatever. So they have the square holes, as you can see, just up there, and then these clips for the moulding. Now we never bother putting a square hole there or there, and once I patch over, say that one and that one, I'm not going to bother either, because the moulding is held on underneath with a bunch of clips, and it's held on with a bolt up behind the wing, and it's held on with a bunch of screws at the back as well, so it's not going to fall off like if there's a couple of clips missing off it. But even as it is, there'll still be what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There'll be 5 out of the whatever, maybe 10 or 11 that hold it in, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. So that's what I'm dealing with at the front, or on say the outside part of the sill. Let me just grab my light, and this is what we're dealing with underneath. Those are factory holes for the hold the little moulding in. Now you can see there, I'm only after spotting this myself, there is a seam there. I didn't notice that before, so it's only from that seam back that has gotten shitty. So now that feels and sounds solid, but I'll wire wheel it and see. And if, like, I don't want to be cutting out stuff unless I absolutely have to. Like, I want to cut out as little as possible, but I don't know, we'll see. Jacking point there is fine, but the kind of bit that anchors to it on the inside is starting to rot. I'll show you in a second. But on the outside there, it doesn't actually really look that bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could probably clean all that down and treat it and pass an NCT at least anyway, but it wouldn't last very long. So then on the inside, this is going to be kind of hard to see, so you'll have to bear with me, is, look at this. Yeah, so we've got another little hole just up there. That's all in there, kind of the inside of the sill, and the, I suppose you call it the little pocket, where that's where this bolt hole right here, and then this one over here is where the trailing arm bolts up to. Luckily where it bolts up to is fine. Well, the wire wheel will tell the truth of that, I suppose, but you can see this guy here. Now I'll try and get you a proper view of this, but I don't know if I'll be able to. Hang on a second out. No, we can't. Oh, we can kind of see there. I suppose it doesn't matter, but yeah, okay, there. That triangular piece there right in the middle of your screen, the nearest, so I say the piece to the left of that, I assume just welds onto the jacking point, and then that, I'm not going to be able to show you this easily, but that piece of it there goes onto the back of the sill. So I don't know if I can remake that piece. Like, it doesn't look terribly complicated, but I suppose time will tell. But as you can see, like, up in there is rotted. The actual floor, for want of a better word, of the sill doesn't look that bad. So again, a wire wheel might reveal a couple of nasty things in there, but we'll see. I wish I could show you better of this, but on the outside of that, at the end of the sill, that kind of cap there, that's gone, and that was repaired already. You can kind of see the shape of a repair there, but it has rusted through. So that'll need to be repaired. Then that spot on the inner arch. Now the actual inner arch on this side appears to be alright. Like, it doesn't really look that bad, you know, but again, the wire wheel will discover what, if any, mysteries lie beyond. And then there is a rusty kind of patch up there. There's a little hole there, and just some shitty surface rust and stuff there. That piece was already repaired a couple of years ago, but the new quarter panels that I have that patch on it. Like what I want to try and do is, like, ideally I don't want to have to cut off the entire quarter panel to fix the inner and then put a new quarter panel on, if that makes sense, because like I'm very, very likely to warp it trying to weld it, or just make a shite of the whole thing or something. I'd rather try and not do that if I can. So what I'm hoping is I'll just be able to cut out what just the bare minimum of what needs to be cut out, you know, while leaving good metal, or as much good metal as I can. So I guess time will tell, but that's what we're dealing with, at least anyway. Other than that, inside is fine, absolutely fine. Now I've cleaned down and treated that last year when I was doing the air suspension, but when this is all getting finalized, it'll all get done again with the under seal and stuff like that. But other than that, it looks pretty good. There's the factory little holes, like I don't know what some of these are for. That is the grommet where the airline will be going through. That's the grommet where I was originally going to run the airlines, but it doesn't suit, so I'll weld that closed, or even if not, leave that. I might just pop that grommet, and if it's not rusty, leave that as it is, pop the grommet back in, and under seal over it. I'm sure it'll be fine. All the other stuff is pretty good. I'm very, very tempted to take the fuel tank down while I've gone this far. Now, you're not going to be able to see this, but like up behind the fuel tank, now you have no notion of seeing that, I may as well be showing you a bush, was cleaned up and treated a couple of years ago when there was a bit more repair done. So I know that above the tank is tidy, but I also wouldn't mind putting a fuel pump in it, or at least a little sock filter thing or something. So while it's going to be all apart, I might pop the tank down. Like, a new tank itself is only like 150 quid, but the only thing is I'm not sure if the new tanks that are available are for an injection engine or carb engine. Like, I don't know if the tanks are the same or not, so I don't really want to spend 150 quid and find out that it's a tank I can't use. But even if I did, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's only 150 quid, like I've spent more money on less. So that's something else to take into consideration, mainly because the bracket that holds the fuel filter on there is like literally gone. You can see where it's supposed to bolt on either side, so I've just got cable tied for the time being. Now, it's been fine, but I'd like it to be right, you know. So the next step now is to try my best to clean up all of that and just see where I stand, I guess. Okay, a lot of cutting and banging and grinding later. All the shitty edge is cut out. That was that shitty edge there with the big hole in it there. It used to sit that way. That was one of the side skirt holes, and it came along there and it was all gone rotten on the inside. I can only assume when it was repaired before there was no paint, no nothing thrown on the back of that, so that got all shitty. But that's all cut out and cleaned up pretty nice. The floor, thankfully, or floor, what we'll call the floor of the sill, is actually solid. So really good. I've been banging on it with the hammer and everything. It's all fine. It's all good and strong. I didn't manage to poke any holes in it. And when cut now, I just kind of cut that as an access panel to see what was going on back there. But even look at where it was repaired in there, like nothing put in there, not a bit of paint, nothing. So if I can get in there with a wire brush, I'll tidy that up, but you know, as best I can. You can see bits of it looks like spider legs there with the bits of old MIG wire sticking through it. I cut out that whole piece again just to kind of see the shape of what everything was. So there is a piece. This is going to be hard to see and hard to describe, so you'll have to bear with me for a minute. So this panel right here, you can see my finger running along it there, is supposed to come down to here. So what I think we're going to do is cut a piece that's straight, spot weld it onto this guy, you know, in a couple of places, then straight down and spot weld it, like once I get all this cleaned up, spot weld it all along there. That's that inner section done. And then the outer section, I can just, like, I have a donor sill from the donor car that I might be able to just cut that section out and put it on and be fine. Or else I can literally just bend a piece 90 degrees, same as it is in the factory, just weld it up along there, bend a piece, you know, and just tack it around. See the way kind of the lip sort of comes around like that? Just do that with the hammer and a bunch of spot welds. I'm sure it'll be okay, but we'll worry about that later. Then again, kind of hard to describe from here, but what you can see here, this jagged edge along here, I know it's very hard to see now, so apologies, but it might be easier from the back. Yeah, the inside edge there that you're looking at, this edge here, try and cut that off as clean as I can, square. You can kind of see just there the way it comes down and then comes straight. It has the mount for the jacking point on it. Again, cut it off clean, bend a piece the appropriate shape, and I should be able to get at it from the inside here. I'm not entirely sure whether, because obviously if I have this piece done, I won't be able to get at this piece, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure which one I'll do first. Probably this one, because if I leave this for access, I might just chop the rest of that out as far as there, purely just for access. I'd probably be able to get both, but I'm not really sure. The mount for the jack point there, the kind of triangled piece, that guy right there, it's 95% solid. So what I might do, again, we'll have to wait and see how it all goes, is put just weld a lug onto it, a side essentially onto it, once this panel is on. Actually, yeah, that would make sense. If I put this piece on first, and then I'll be able to still get at this from the front, I'll be able to weld it on from through here, if that makes sense. And another piece at the back, blah blah blah, and then there's more up here. There's a couple of holes there, and there's a couple of holes, you may or may not be able to see them up there, but we'll get there. It's not as daunting as I was expecting it to be. It's just a lot of bending and making and stuff like that, and like Dwayne said, and like I've heard many people say it before, if it doesn't work, cut it out and start again. Right, so here's where we stand after some more cutting. I've gotten rid of that section down there. That is the original lip on this section here, so took off that entire cap, cut the spot weld there and there, took off that whole cap. We can remake that at the end, not a big deal, but that gives me much better access to make my panel for along here. Spot weld a bit along there and bring it down onto the floor there. Same, gives me way better access to make a piece for the mount. And also some access to get in at the back as well. I have cleaned down everything as best I can with some of the rust treatment stuff on it. I found more rust, obviously, when I was cleaning up here. I've cut all of that, I kind of squared everything off as best I can for the repairs. And then there was an extra bit, you probably won't be able to see it, but yeah, you can kind of see it up there. But anyway, so I'm going to let all that stuff dry for another couple of hours, but in the meantime, I think I'll start making templates out of some card, see how we go, start bending and fitting and stuff like that, and then with any luck, stuff will be mostly dry. So I might get some of it at least. Today might just be a case of making all the pieces and bending the shapes and getting them ready, and then if the rust converter hasn't really properly dried, then tomorrow might be the day that I start welding them on, but we'll see how far we get. Okay, that time lapse you just saw was me making the little piece for the side of the little mount thing there. So what I ended up with was that little piece sits that way, and then I'll weld a little tab on at 90 degrees right there, and it's kind of hard to see in the shadow, and that's where it will mount to the next panel. And I went to zap that together. I'm out of gas. I didn't realize I was out of gas at all. I know a couple of weeks ago I completely forgot to turn the gas on, and the gas was left on for literally a week, from a Monday evening to the next Monday morning. So I have to get a new one ordered. They said it'll be about an hour. That's fine. So in the meantime, I'm making some more templates for patches. Let me show you what I've come up with, if I can find it. Maybe it's here. We go. So this piece is for the inner panel. Again, I'm going to be doing this one-handed, so bear with me. So this piece that I cut off all along here, it comes down, it just has that little lip there. I guess technically it ends about there, but I'm going to leave extra in it, or at least it goes at an angle anyway. So what I'm going to do is that piece butts up in there against that edge. It has the same sort of bend in it. I'm going to put those few spot welds all along there. I thought I'd be able to reach that far one, but I don't think I will. So I might trim off the excess then after that, I'm not entirely sure. And then I'll try and kind of wedge that in there so it stays. No, not really. But anyway, then the outside, the outside piece, this bit will go on top of that and connect up here onto this piece here. That should be straightforward. Just there'll be quite a bit of bending and stuff in that, but if I have to make it out of a few pieces, I will. Not a big deal. I realise I say not a big deal about 4,000 times every time I make a fucking video. But anyway, so that piece that I was talking about on the time lapse, we'll weld onto the side of the mount there and then onto the back, just back there, a little spot. Well, it should be fine, but time will tell, I suppose. So while I'm waiting for my barrel of gas, while I'm waiting for the phone call about the barrel of gas, I'm going to keep making templates. I just have stuff ready and try and get some more done, at least as much as I can done today. I mean, it's nearly 2 o'clock in the day now already, so a lot of the day is already gone, but we'll see how far we get. My goodness, such a pain in my hole I have after all that. I grab a light and I'll show you how far I got. It's not, no, I'm going to warn you, well, it's not ugly now because it's covered in seam sealer, but it was really ugly. So let me show you. So, oh god, everything is back in at least anyway. So I will admit it was a fucking shit show. It took me a lot longer than I expected, just to say. You can't really make it, well, you can kind of see I meant to make one piece there to fill as far as there, then I made a flat piece there, I made a piece in the middle to kind of all go together to kind of fill that weird sort of shape that's there. Over here, can you even see? Not really, I suppose. There is, let me try and find somewhere to put the light. Yeah, that'll work. I had to put a piece there kind of at a curve that way, then another piece here as well to make it all fit. And it's all ugly as hell, but like, it's going to be covered in the seam sealer anyway, and then the under seal. Repaired a little spot right there as well. All down along here. I grounded as much as I'm bothered to grind it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think it really, the whole thing, I don't think the whole lot needs to be ground down. Like, it's not like anyone's going to be looking under here. So the last thing to do in this section is, well, obviously I still need to repair this section here, but forget about that for now. I need to cut out that section there, replace that. Should be straightforward enough, I think. And then I need to trim. I just left loads excess on that, the piece I was saying I made out of 3 pieces. I just need to lop all that off, kind of, you know, follow the curve of what would be there, and then make the cap that kind of goes over that whole section. I didn't take an awful lot of pictures of doing this bit by the wing here, but I have, or an awful lot of video, I mean, I have a couple of pictures that I'll stick up here. And that's the result. I just need to trim the holes for where the bumper, there's like a plastic molded piece there that helps situate the bumper. But that came out okay. The back of it was all rotten, but it's not bad. It's coming along. So oh yeah, I discovered another lovely hole right there. So I think I'll just cut, you know, a little piece and tack it over or something, or I'm not sure. So I'm finishing up for today now. That's just been way too much for well, about 2 days actually. So I'll do a quick tidy up here, and I'll be back the next day that I'm at it, hopefully when the corner is done. Right, we're back. So before I show you anything and before I go any further, this has taken an awful lot longer. Not necessarily longer than I expected, or not that it was particularly harder than I expected, but I don't know if I mentioned this in any of the other videos, but I've taken a month off, or not necessarily a month off work, but I'm working by appointment only. So let's say, you know, like, for example, 4 out of the 7 days I was off last week, I had appointments, so I had to go into work for anywhere between 11 and 3ish kind of. So let's say if I go in at 12, I'm in there for 3 or 4 hours. By the time I get home, it's time to go and pick up the young lad from the creche and stuff like that, so I don't really get anything done, and it's hard to get into a rhythm with this kind of stuff if you're stopping and starting and stopping and starting. So it's been about a week since the clip that you've just seen. But either way, this side is finished. I will. There was a couple of times I was like, "Fuck this!" Like maybe I should just give it to somebody. But let me show you. The last bit that you would have seen was that piece that I chopped up off the spare sill, I guess you call it, being offered up, and it's, again, you know, it's not super tidy, but it's fine. Nothing fantastic, but it's in there. I'm just going to fill that side skirt hole with seam sealer. I'm not going to weld all that up around it. Just spot welded it on there, and the few little holes that were in it. Well, oh yeah, that's one thing I did learn, is never really drill. I don't know where I heard it. I'd seen someone on the internet saying, you know, 10 or 12 mil, like a half inch or something like that for a spot welding. I was thinking that's way too big. That'd take forever to fill and be a pain in the ass. But I tried it and it is a pain in the ass. So I'll be sticking with my 6 or 8 mil max for little spots anymore. But that's beside the point. Anyway, so that gap is filled now. Obviously, there's a glaringly big gap there, but I can't really get that to push in any further. So as rough as it is, I'm just gonna pack a bunch of seam sealer down there. I'm sure it'll be okay for a while anyway. Ignore that ugly piece there. Where are we gone? That right there, that was just to fill a little gap. I forgot to chop that off. Actually, I'll do that in a second. I've made the cap for the end there. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it is what it is, you know. I had to extend it a little bit there, and then just, you know, weld it on the back side here onto the sill, and then just ground it flat. Now again, nothing is ground all the way back. As you can see, like, it's kind of ugly in places and all that, but fuck it, like, so what? Excuse me, who's going to be looking at it? So the next step now, and as you can, I don't know if I showed this already, but I have a lot of inside there treated with new seam sealer and primed in a couple of places, and it's in good shape up there, so I'm not worried about that at all. Oh yeah, get rid of that. So the next step is to seam seal all of this. Well, I'll prime it first, let it dry, then seam seal all of it. Leave that for, I don't know, I'll have to check the tin and see how long you're supposed to leave it for. I don't know if it's a couple of days or a couple of hours. And then I got what do you call it, the body shuts stuff, that sticky kind of stuff. I got a couple of tubs or tubes, whatever you want to call it, of that last week, and I got the gun. I needed a special gun for it or whatever. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. Mask up, say, you know, along the, up by the arch, say, just along there, mask up the whole way along, and just go to town in there, you know, obviously mask up in there and that as well. But other than that, yeah, I think it's coming on alright. I'm pretty happy. I'm still in two minds about dropping the tank. I don't know why it's giving me such a fucking pain in my hole to figure out whether I want to do it or not. I did try the bolts with a ratchet just by hand to see if they turned. 2 out of the 4 turned. Now one of them you can't really get at because the exhaust heat shield's in the way. That's probably a lot of what's stopping me, is that I can't be bothered taking down the exhaust again, just because, as I'm sure you've learned if you've watched all of these, I can't leave anything alone. So if I have to take down the whole exhaust, or at least drop it to get the, what do you call it, get the heat shield down, I'm just going to end up fucking buying a whole exhaust system. I don't really want to do that, like, but not that it's expensive, but still. So I might just leave the tank where it is for now. And if it's a case that, fingers crossed, it never shits the bed, it's not that big of a deal to really drop it. You could just drop the 2 control arms. I can actually show you from here. You can just loosen off that control arm there and that other one there, let them swing down, and you could get at the subframe, which is right there. You can see the bolt with the socket sticking off it, that's along the subframe there. So get that out of the way. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I don't know, it's genuinely giving me anxiety as to whether I want to do it or not, but that's beside the point. So anyway, next step, yeah, is a seam sealer, and maybe start with the body shuts. I don't know if I'll do, say, you know, this whole inner arch and all across the back that you've already seen in the rear fab video, or will I just wait till the whole lot is done and do it all in one go? I'm not entirely sure. Realistically, I'll probably wait till it's all done, but yeah, it's nice to see it done.
like I said, it's not the prettiest stuff in the world, but I mean, it's there and it's solid, and I'll put some primer and some seam sealer. I guess the beauty of the seam sealer, like, you know, sitting in along there and all down along here and all that, that combined with the body shut stuff, it'll give it a fairly, like, I guess fairly uniform sort of look. Like, I don't think it'll look perfect by any means, but like, for example, I had the, as I said before a while ago, I had the grommet in there for the airline, and when I had put the other stuff, the cheap Halfords like bedliner stuff over, it actually hid that entirely, to the point where I'd forgotten about it. So I guess, you know, with enough coats of it, it'll hide any kind of ugly stuff. And again, it's one thing I have learned, I'll point this out because I know I'm rambling a lot here, how to word it like without sounding like I think I'm a fucking expert. There's no point trying to make everything perfect, because the more I started cutting stuff and the more I was looking at stuff, like even the shit from the factory is just, you know, let's say if you have a panel 6 inches square, I know you wouldn't have something square, but for example, it's only just kind of spot welded every whatever 3/4 of an inch or half an inch or something like that, and then it's just seam sealer around it. So like, that's why I'm not too worried about a piece like that, because I can just pack some seam sealer down into it, flatten it all off, and it should be, in theory, should be fine. So if that's the way they do it in the factory, then so be it. Yeah, okay, enough rambling. Right, I just decided I'm going to finish up the video here. I'll leave it be for now. It's enough. It's probably about 20-25 minutes of a video at this point. That's enough. So I guess I'll be starting on the next one. I've only got about maybe 10 days left off work. I'll try and get as much as I can done. If I have to take a bit extra time, so be it. I was about to say it's not a big deal, but I say that too much. Yeah, so keep an eye out. I'll be back pretty soon, hopefully. But what's exciting about this is that once the other side is done, that's it. It's back, finally, back to the air suspension stuff. So wish me luck that the other side goes pretty smoothly.